Using the wrong pronouns in Michigan may cost you. The state passing a bill that could make using the wrong pronouns a felony.
Yeah, under the new law, offenders are, quote, guilty of a felony punishable by imprisonment for not more than 5 years or by a fine of up to $10,000 or both. The legislation criminalizes causing someone to feel threatened by words or intimidating a person by intentionally using the wrong gender pronouns.
This bill was passed by the Democrat-controlled state House. It moves to the Michigan State Senate for consideration here. So still got a ways to go here, but either way, that is the outline. We have Judge Mark Boonstra. He's with the Michigan Court of Appeals joining us live. Judge, thank you. Matt Hall, a Michigan State Representative, who is against that bill. State Rep, thank you so much. Judge, can I start with you really quickly? Can you tell us about this bill, if this bill, again, does have to go through the Senate, the governor, et cetera, but if it does come through, or become law, rather, how would these cases be prosecuted and charged? Is there an outline for that and how this plays out? And do you have any reaction to this? Many watching may think this is pretty wild.
Well, there's no outline other than the words in the statute itself, which the representative could speak to better than I. Courts, don't make policy. Our job is to interpret the language of the legislature and try to figure out what the legislature intended to prohibit. So I guess all of that remains to be seen. And I think we have to see what kinds of cases, in what factual circumstances, prosecutors opt to bring charges here. It doesn't, you spoke of pronouns. The statute doesn't mention pronouns, but it does speak to gender identity and other things. So we'll have to see what prosecutors decide to do. And then cases will work their way up through the courts, and courts will have to assess the validity of that. I guess I would remind everyone, though, that this country was founded on principles of individual freedom and God-given rights. And the authors of our Constitution also adopted the First Amendment. And the First Amendment was intended not just to protect speech we agree with, but more importantly, it was intended to protect speech even if we don't agree with it. So we'll have to see what cases come down the pike, and then it's going to be up to the courts to try to figure out what the legislature really intended here. And, I can imagine a situation looking at this statute that arguments are going to be made that it's just unduly vague, that the average citizen can't really know what conduct is allowed and what conduct is prohibited. And then it might be subject to a constitutional challenge as simply being too unduly vague.
Well, speaking of the First Amendment, critics of this bill say that it violates that. Republican State Representative Angela Rigas had this to say about the bill. She said the state of Michigan is now explicitly allowing the gender delusion issue to be used as a protected class. This opens up numerous issues when it comes to the courts and the continued weaponization of the system against conservatives. We saw similar concerns when they wanted to pass blocks on conversion therapy. It seems Democrats want to be in the business of telling people how to think. Matt, do you agree with this?
Yeah, so this is just one of many steps that our Democrat Governor Whitmer and a Democrat House and Senate are taking in Michigan to advance the radical transgender agenda. So the first thing they did is they added gender identity to our Elliott Larson statute for civil rights. In the recent budget, they just hired about 50 new state employees that are, we're calling the pronoun police, that are basically going out and investigating complaints of discrimination and looking at violations of this new Elliott Larson law. We saw them pass a bill and sign into law on conversion therapy, which if you are an adult counselor and you're counseling a child that's confused about their gender, if you counsel them that it's okay to change their gender, that's okay. If you counsel them the other way about the gender they were born, you could lose your license to practice. And now we're seeing this with the hate crimes legislation, which is adding all kinds of confusion about intimidation for people that refer to someone with the wrong pronouns. So this is just a series of issues. And Governor Whitmer is just, she said this is how we're going to grow our population in the state, is by these type of policies. If you notice, Michigan is 49th in the country in population decline, so it's not working.
State Rep, let me stay with you just for a second here. And the judge was making a very valid point. Again, there could be constitutional challenges to this. It could be very vague. It could go against, obviously, the First Amendment and protected speech, et cetera. But I wanted to go back to your understanding as far as the makeup of the Senate. It has passed the State House. I'm sure you were a no on that. But going to the Senate, what is the makeup of the Senate? What is the likelihood that it does pass the Senate and head to Governor Gretchen Whitmer's desk?
Yeah, so this passed in the House with all Democrats voting for it and nearly every Republican voting no, including myself. The Senate in Michigan is also controlled by the Democrats, and they have a one-seat majority there at 20. And so we have to find one moderate Democrat to try to stop this policy. And I'll just tell you, if the year so far is any indication, there isn't one that exists. So I think you'll see it move through, and Governor Whitmer will gladly sign it. But we're going to keep raising awareness of this and pushing back and trying to stop this radical legislation. And hopefully there's one moderate Democrat who stands up. So they all campaign that way, but they don't govern like that.
Yep. All right, got to leave it right there. We appreciate the time. Judge Mark Boonstra joining us live, and Michigan State Rep Matt Hall. Thank you both, gentlemen. We appreciate that and enjoy your Independence Day. By the way, I appreciate the tie, Judge. Very nice touch.